Hey, and welcome to another episode of
Are You Mad at Me, the podcast. Wait, we didn't, that's not the name of it. Are You Mad at Me?
Question mark.
Question mark. Not Are You Mad at Me, the podcast. It's not like a...
It's also not Are You Mad... It's not Are You Mad at Me question mark either. It just is one that's punctuation. Anyway, we've covered that. I'm Vickie Morgan.
Does everybody know where they are now?
I'm Vickie Morgan, and this is 42-year-old Josh Morgan. No, 41?
I will be 42 in 2 days.
After you get out of your 30s, you just became
Wait,
a
when
regular
people are
dude.
listening to this, it'll be tomorrow. So I will be 41 tomorrow because it's the next day after that.
Yeah, it'll come out on Wednesday. And your birthday is on Thursday. So happy birthday to Josh, and happy Boxing Day to Canadians everywhere. And I think
the English.
I think some parts of Australia.
I saw a thing the other day that people were asking if Christmas crackers were only British. And people were chiming in.
You mean like Christmas, like snowflake Ritz?
Yeah, no. People were chiming in like, no, we have them in Canada, and we have them in New Zealand, and we have them in Australia. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they're just not in the U.S.
They're
so
ridiculous.
Christmas crackers. Like the only reason I knew about them was because I feel like I've always really liked British TV shows, and I feel like where was that they had Christmas crackers? Anyway, there was some British TV show that I watched years ago that they had Christmas crackers. And I don't think I've ever pulled one apart, but...
Oh, they're boring.
I've always thought, yeah, there's not going to be anything interesting
like
inside
a crepe
this thing.
paper crown or a trinket that a kid could choke on or something your dog's going to chew.
A temporary tattoo.
And I think there's supposed to be some sort of a loud cracker noise or snap
noise.
I
think that's the cracker part,
Never
right?
seen
It pops and then there's a crack. Snap, crackle, pop.
I think we got one. I think Mom bought some one year, and it was like, oh, these are right awesome. I saw them on TV, and then she was like... And it was lackluster nothing.
You know, we did have something kind of similar when I was growing up. We would get these little, they look like little champagne bottles, but they were plastic and they were only like 2 inches. And you pull the string out of the mouth of the bottle, and the bottom of the bottle would pop off, and like confetti would come out of it. It was like for like New Year's
tiny
Eve.
little champagne thing.
Yeah, so you pop it and then you pop it, and it'd make a mess.
So there was no alcohol.
There was no
in
toy.
it because
there was
it was
no alcohol
for children.
It was just confetti.
A big mess for your.
And
probably
a loud noise.
Intoxicated parents to clean up.
Which I also really always liked the snaps, the little paper snaps that had like some little, I don't know, I always assumed it was like little gunpowder rocks inside the snaps, and you throw them down on the ground, and or you could just pinch them in your fingers and they snap, and everybody was like, ooh.
Yeah, we never did that in our fingers. We had cap guns for that.
Cap guns. You can't do those in your fingers. You got to use a hammer.
Or a butter knife.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
The introduction to hot knives. Okay,
so... One of Mom's high heels.
Well, this is episode 5. Yeah, my mother didn't have high heels. You couldn't use a sneaker boot to pop things. Anyway, welcome to our Christmas episode. Happy holiday.
Just hear those sleigh bells ring-a-ling, jing-a-ling.
Josh told me I had to dress festive for this. I don't want to wear this at all.
I'm unintentionally wearing a Ginger Sparkle Dust shirt that we made that has... what are their names? Tell me their names. Hang on. Baby and
Come on.
What was his name? Johnny and Baby.
Are you serious?
But they have on Christmas hats, and it says nobody puts Ginger Sparkle Dust in a corner. Hashtag Team Ginger. This was a story that I'm sure Vickie, didn't you tell this last
I think
week?
I might have, and I also told it in a comedy show.
You had 2 comedy sets this week, and you told it, yeah. So speaking of, Vickie headlined at Last Minute Comedy this week, which killed. She murdered. And then the next night she went and did 10 minutes. It was like 12 minutes really. But
was it really?
I think so. But then you did a set at a Landwash Brewery, which was
so fun.
There was a packed house. They were just loving it. They were rolling. Like the best reaction, I think that was the best set you've ever done.
And he did say that to me after I came off the stage. It was really fantastic, and it felt really good. And best part of this week for me, and I know it's not about, who are we kidding? Some stuff is about money. It certainly makes things feel better. I would do it for free, but I actually had 2 paid gigs this week. So thank you to the show producers who put those together and actually paid the comedians. Thumbs up for that one, because it felt pretty good to get paid for doing work that I love to do. So that was great.
The very first time you did comedy at Fogged Up Comedy at Aaron's Pub downtown, and Stephen Vanier, who was the host there, and he's super nice and very cool, came around and gave everybody their cut of the pay what you can box. And it was like $5 or $10.
It might as well have been $1 million to me.
But it was like
awesome.
Money for telling jokes.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know if I'm being superstitious about it, but I haven't spent a penny. I keep it all in my phone. in my little, like I have a little fold-out phone case.
It's like a little mattress full of money from It's comedy money.
Well, it's just like the value of it. There's no way it'll ever reflect what it actually means to me. So, like a $5 bill or a $10 bill, just what can I possibly buy for $5 or $10 that would mean the same thing? It just, I don't know.
Right.
Eventually, it's
going to
get.
Every time you open up your phone case and you see
it's a reminder.
Money in there, it's like, oh, I got
Absolutely.
paid for telling jokes on stage, making people laugh.
It was pretty fun. So, of course, a lot of people are probably celebrating. I don't know what's going to be going on in people's houses on Christmas Day.
So today we're recording this. It's Tibbs Eve.
Yeah, which is not a real thing.
I said tomorrow. Today's only Monday.
Yes.
So we got 3 days until my birthday. 2 days until Christmas. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve.
So Tibbs Eve was an invented holiday, apparently. I just read this a couple of minutes ago from Raquel Walsh, who posted a little thing. I think her birthday's on today, so happy birthday to Raquel. But it said... Is that
a local person?
Yeah, John Boy's sister. So,
right.
Yeah, so she said, what a day to have a birthday. And so it was a little description of Tibbs Eve and how it was basically invented in the 1800s, I think locally. But I stand to be corrected on that. But it's basically a chance to get together and drink with your friends before you, quotation, okay, this is what it says in the, have to spend time with your family.
Before you have to spend time with your family.
Which is, kind of, oh my God. Okay.
Tibbs Eve is an unofficial holiday celebrated in Newfoundland and Labrador on December 23rd.
And I would imagine...
It's not even a Canadian thing.
I would imagine anywhere Newfoundlanders find themselves is also Tibbs Eve.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I know there's a lot of expats that are living all over the globe who listen to things like this and listen to the morning the weekend jigs and reels and what are they? Homebrew and...
Oh my goodness.
What are they all called? Homebrew, jigs and reels. There's one on K-Rock.
Jigs and reels, K-Rock. K-Rock is Homebrew. Jigs and reels is on Oz FM.
And what's the VOCM one?
VOCM... I don't know.
The Newfoundland, I think it's just the Newfoundland radio. Anyway,
yes.
So we're on that a lot, so I should know the names of them. And thank you to all the DJs that have played our music this year. Thanks to everybody that have requested our songs in person and online and on the radio shows. It has been, it's been wild. And I'm all over the place today. I feel like I had some stuff that I wanted to say and it's all gone completely because that's Christmas.
I just want to say that I looked up Tibbs Eve just now. It's on Wikipedia. You can look this up. That's the God's honest truth because it's on Wikipedia.
That's only the best information because everybody can contribute to it.
I was just thinking, where did Tibbs come from? Like, who's Tib? Saint Tib, or Tib, 1B or 2Bs, is a character appearing in 17th century English plays. The character is a loose-moraled woman.
Awesome.
Loose-moraled woman, and was used for comic relief.
Morally loose.
Yeah, morally loose.
Comic relief.
So this is like
so that's her Christmas. That triggers so much for me.
Tibbs Eve was a non-time. If something was said to happen on Tibbs Eve, it was unlikely it would ever happen. Oh, like that's going to happen on Tibbs Eve. Like that's saying like something like when pigs fly.
Oh. Okay, well, we made it a whole thing.
That's the old. I think that's pre-Newfoundland Tibbs Eve.
It's a big deal. There's like a lot of concerts going on for Tibbs Eve, and it's like
this is interesting.
That's kind of the big gig is to have a Tibbs Eve show. And I know like Ronnie Power's doing something up in Bay Bulls tonight.
Yeah.
With I think they're called Kaylee, and so if
they're
you're
so good.
This is good. It's going to be too late to do anything about it by the time you hear this on Wednesday. But anyway, so we wanted to do a holiday show when we saw the schedule ahead of us, and we saw that Wednesdays are Christmas Day and New Year's Day. It was like, oh, but you know what? We don't record on the day; we record in advance, and so I thought it'd be kind of fun.
So here we are.
When better to be in people's homes and ear holes than. I don't know. It's for some people it is the happiest day of the year.
When you have to spend time with your family, like you just said.
No, I didn't say that. I'm looking forward to hanging out with the boys, and we don't have a car this year, of course, so we are hanging out this Christmas in our living room. We're going to open some presents from Santa Claus, and then have some delicious food.
We were planning.
I think we're making turkey chili. We're not doing turkey dinner. We're doing turkey chili, and
that's practically
we love that.
Dinner.
And so I'll probably make some homemade biscuits. But we've had a recipe for chili from dating back to about a decade ago, maybe longer, when we were living in Maine.
15 years ago, yeah.
We went to a chili cook-off contest, and I had never made chili in my entire life because I didn't like the beans. I didn't like all the weird stuff and all the textures. So I posted on Facebook many, many years ago, does anybody have a chili recipe? And my friend Christina reached out, and she said, I got this recipe, feel free. And so made the recipe, went to the chili cook-off contest, won,
Destroyed.
And I've been using it ever since.
I mean... Everybody loved it.
It was really good. And there was 6 or 7 different ones to choose from. And the person who had been winning year after year after year got so rattled by my smack talk when I was like, I'm taking you down. And so he panicked on the day.
Didn't he put like cinnamon in his chili?
Yeah, he put
and
cinnamon in his chili.
This was a mistake.
And it bombed.
I should not have put cinnamon in
But he had been winning for 3 or 4 years before we had met any of these people. They had this contest and they invited us. Was it like Super Bowl? Bless you. I think it was was it a Super Bowl thing or was it just a chili contest?
I think it was just a chili contest. Which right now looking back, it's like, why would you have 7 or 8 families come over and all bring a crock pot full of chili to your house?
You all get to eat chili.
That sounds insane to me.
It was delicious. And it was really fun. And so all the people, those families are spread to all the different corners of the earth right now. Some of those couples aren't even together anymore and they've remarried multiple times. One guy has been married at least twice since then.
Yeah, at least.
But it was a really fun time. The chili recipe is absolutely fantastic. Should we share it? Should we post it?
No friggin' way.
I'm happy. You know what? Maybe I'll put it on our Pinterest. That's a really good chili recipe. And I'm trying a lot of recipes. We've been cooking and baking. I've been cooking and baking a lot the last few days just to keep my hands busy.
I just noticed this the other day. For the past couple weeks and in our plans for the next few days, we have been having all of our favorite foods, like everything that we love, and
oh, yeah. Lots of good smells.
It's like all the treat dinners. We've been having everything over the past.
And I think a lot of that is if you just strand me in a house and put a bunch of ingredients around me, that's what you get.
What happens?
Yeah, so lock me in a room with a big pile of yarn and you might get a sweater out of it. I'm just saying. I'm not saying confine me against my will or anything like that, but I think we've been making the best of our time. And thankfully, Instacart delivers literally anything. And so all the ingredients, I look up a recipe that I want to make, and it's really fun. So I found a recipe just a few minutes ago. I haven't shown you this, but I found a recipe for homemade peanut butter balls. And I showed Peter, and he was like, yum, we're making that. So that's what we're doing after the show. But so, of course, it's wherever you're listening, whether it's on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, Merry Christmas. And I hope you are peaceful. I don't care if you got presents. It's not, that really doesn't matter. It's more like, are you just at peace? And even if it means locking yourself in the bathroom for an hour and pretend you're not in there, I hope you get a few minutes peace on Christmas, because really that's the best thing I can wish for anybody.
And you know what I was thinking? Like places like here, North America, I mean, where like the majority of people and businesses celebrate Christmas. Like there's a lot of people that are here, especially in St. John's, that don't celebrate Christmas. Yeah. Like there's a lot of students here and people that came over, immigrants, people that came from different countries. And it's like, how, like, it seems like to me, I don't know this from experience, but it seems like if you're over in a place that is celebrating a holiday that you don't celebrate and all the businesses are shut down, all the restaurants are closed, you can't go, like you got 2 days of just, I can't do anything and also you're not spending time with your family and having a big meal or opening presents or doing the Christmas stuff that we were always used to. Mm-hmm. Like, it seems like it'd be weird, at least.
Isolating.
Hard and isolating, yeah. So
I hadn't thought of that until really this year. I know we talked about it on a different episode. But the Salvation Army was locked out of the mall. This was there was a big news.
Don't worry, they're back now.
Oh yeah, there was a big news article that the people who own the mall had decided that they were not going to support having Salvation Army in there with their kettle campaign next year. Not this year. They were fine for this year, but starting next year they were going to not be allowed in there. And there was an uproar. And by an uproar, I mean there was like 40 people
on
who
Facebook.
Put comments on Facebook. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, don't worry. They made an announcement that the Salvation Army is welcome at the mall for eternity. I mean,
indefinitely.
But it kind of drove it home that like maybe not everybody, or maybe we could try some new traditions where we invite people in to have a meal and not necessarily, with a big crucifix hanging down in your face. Or whatever the symbols are of and that's not to come down on any particular religion. I just am going after the ones that I was raised up in. But maybe it's a time to reach out to your brothers and sisters. Shout out to the people who put together the Nate Bargatze Christmas special.
Yeah, we did get to watch that this
They did a little skit about the nativity and how the traditions are carried on and all these things, and it was absolutely hilarious. I loved it. It was really like belly laughs.
It was good, yeah.
So
I'm really happy that Lorne Michaels produced it, and Mikey Day was one of the the stars of the sketches, and like I think he was a producer too.
Yeah, he wrote the nativity scene,
and he's so funny.
He was one of the co-writers. Sorry, so the people from the George Washington sketches.
Yeah, they made the George Washington sketch
yeah.
into a Christmas angel at the nativity sketch, and it was so funny.
Here's the moment in the show where I make a shout out. If you have not found Nate Bargatze in your feed, you're missing out. Go look him up. It's Bargatze. That's the second time in my life that there's been a GT, like that combination of T and anyway, Gretzky, Gretzky.
We call that a consonant X
mashup. If you have not found Nate Bargatze yet, go look him up. We're about 50 or 52 episodes into the podcast with him.
Yeah,
absolutely loving it.
They had a comment the other day from somebody that this was like the 52nd episode or whatever, and this person had written in saying, I listen to this podcast so much that when I get caught up, I start over. And he said he's on his third listen through, and it's like,
yeah, I can see that.
We're 50 episodes in, and now there's like 250 or something.
Yeah.
So,
and it is such it's so comforting. He's just so funny, and seeing him develop, and the other guys that he has on the podcast too are just comics. They're just local comics in Tennessee, and they're not starting out. They've got careers, and
I gotta say,
gigs.
I've been really enjoying hearing and seeing Aaron and Brian on the podcast because like they're funny, and seeing now I'm getting their stuff in my Instagram feed and stuff. Yep. So I'm hearing their comedy, and it's like they're not just sidekicks on the podcast. They're really funny comedians. And
they tell real stories about gigs that don't sell any tickets, or someone almost gets into a fist fight. But which, by the way, it's so funny. We just an episode. So we're 3 years back. We're 3 years behind in that podcast, but the stuff that they're talking about is starting to happen in our lives, which is really funny. We just
talked about this, and it was 3 years ago, but it just happened in our lives.
So just earlier this week, there was a story on the podcast about people. What if somebody passed out on stage? And there was another conversation about what if there was a fight in the audience, like when there's a really distracting.
There was a conversation. There was a story about Nate said he was in a club in Chicago, and somebody shushed somebody else during a show, and they got into a fight. And it turned out that one of the guys, I don't know if it was the shusher or the shushee, but one of them was a off-duty cop, and he ended up calling all his cop buddies, and they came and shut the whole thing down. But it was really funny because this week there was almost a fist fight in a comedy show because somebody got shushed. Anyway,
it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe just decided to visit. This is Maebe. In case you're reading the captions, it's not like the word. It's Maebe. Yeah, it was pretty funny. And so someone, of course, at the first show this week, collapsed on stage. It was kind of a weird experience. They're okay. The person's okay. Not the first time it's happened.
It was extra strange for a comedy show shocking. Because at first everybody was like, oh, is this part of the joke?
Yeah, people actually said out loud, is this a bit? Before people went to help. And so for the next half hour, we were waiting for paramedics, and the person announced, I'm not going in an ambulance. And people were like, well, what should we do? Should we still call the ambulance? And it was like, call an ambulance. Call the ambulance, because none of us comedians are qualified to determine if this person who just hit their
comedians and comedy fans
hit their head on the speaker on the way down. We're not qualified to say that they're okay. So half an hour later, we're still waiting for the paramedics to assess the situation, and I know I wondered at the time, and I thought, how selfish really, I just couldn't believe how selfish I was.
You felt you were selfish.
Oh, and so I said to somebody next to me, like, do you think any of the other comedians are like wondering, or like, am I still going to do my set, and are still nervous because they're about to perform? Like, it was
100%.
So it was kind of like there wasn't much could be done. But it was a moment, and so it was funny that those two things that had been talked about on the podcast during that week, because we're catching up, happened, and the almost fist fight was like right next to me. I turned around, and there was some angry hissing, like talking under the breath kind of thing, and it was because, like, to make it quieter, they started arguing and fighting. It was super uncomfortable. So anyway, but the show went really great. It was pretty fun, and so I'm gonna that show was great, and the next night was even just so exciting. It was in Mount Pearl, my first time ever performing outside of the city. So I guess that was my first tour.
International show.
Yeah, it was. But a shout out to hosts who learn a little bit about the guests and hype them up and get the crowd ready for the headliner to come up. That was definitely If you're planning on doing a show and you're thinking about producing or putting one off and you're wondering how to make it a successful show, I'm going to give some feedback, have a host who is going to learn the names of the people who are performing, hype them up a little bit, encourage them, tell them how funny they are. Preferably don't criticize the people's material after they get down. Those are just little tips that make things run smoother and make everybody feel, comfortable and like they want to go back and things. So it was a really fun time. And so of course going back to the show that we did too back in October, November when you hosted, and I thought you were, it's just Stephen Vanier is also really, really good at it. Yeah. Where he'll come over and say, how do you want me to bring you up? Yep. And so it seems like he's making stuff up off the top of his head, and sometimes he does, but it's a really nice touch to find out about the people that are coming up next. We did a show a few years ago in a little Bay community, and the musician who got up just before us were like, well, stick around for the next people. Come on. We're standing in a field in the middle of nowhere, and he didn't bother to ask our names, which was like, not that we're a big deal, but just like we're in a field, buddy. We're not exactly open in here at the Ryman. It's, we
weren't in our
anyway,
own
those little
room.
things go a long way, and I appreciated the people I appreciate a good host. I really do. And I appreciate a good audience, and I thought everybody was fantastic. And thanks to the paramedics who showed up and saved the day, and to the people who called and got all that done. It was really great. And to my cousin Bev, who showed up, Bev and Tracy showed up, and they show up at everything we do, and they're just so wonderful and so supportive, and they laughed at everything, and it was really great. And to the bus driver that got me into the Mount Pearl show. Yeah, it's glamorous. It's a glamorous life, but it was pretty fun.
We did take a bus. That's always a treat. I got splashed by a puddle. A car drove past and splashed us on the way in.
Yeah. So Landwash Brewery, of course, is in Mount Pearl, and they have a food truck in the building. So it's parked like there's a big, big giant.
It's a brewery, so they have like a great big warehouse with all the big vats of beer and stuff. And in the warehouse, they also have a food truck, Johnny and May's food truck. So
we had a little snack with Johnny and May's. It was so delicious. They had sliders, so these little baby burgers and little baby chicken sandwiches.
Which is nice because their burgers are a lot. Like, it's really good, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. They also have salt beef poutine that'll give you a heart attack right on the spot.
Yep. A delicious, delicious heart attack. Oh, for our listeners,
totally worth it. What a way to go!
For our listeners in the U.S. that don't know what salt beef is, I'm not going to try to describe it. It's delicious. It's like
brined. It's beef, but it's brined to the point of saturated completely with salt and preserved for. I don't even think it has an expiration date, but it's how Newfoundlanders have preserved meat here. And of course, in the American places, I think it's called brisket.
Yeah, brisket.
But it's not quite the same.
I think brisket is like the closest.
Yeah. It's not quite the same.
Salty beef.
This is product. Like you have to soak it and change the water a number of times before it's even
before
fit
you can
to
cook
eat.
it. Yeah.
But I think at Johnny and May's they don't soak it at all. They just put it straight on there.
It's salty.
Yeah.
Well, of course the gravy's really salty too. Oh.
And so
none of this is complaints. It's all very delicious.
For days after you go. Because your tongue is stuck to the roof of your mouth. I want to get to this before I forget because I think it's important. I came across this idea. This is not to implicate or disparage anybody in any way, shape, or form. But many years ago, when I was seeing a therapist here in Newfoundland, I think it was here in Newfoundland. They recommended this book here. It's called The Complete ACOA Source Book, and ACOA stands for Adult Children of Alcoholics. No connection, no relation. I don't know
why
they
just happened to be talking about this over Christmas.
And I was like, why would you give me this? It reminds me of a story. Can I tell you a story?
Tell us a story.
This came up because I sit on an appeal board, and I might have talked about this in the last episode. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, maybe. I sit on an appeal board for the income support. So when you apply for income support, if you don't feel like the decision they made was fair or followed the rules or whatever, you can appeal it, and it comes to our board. And so, I just went blank. Hold on. It'll come back to me. Edit this part out. Oh, right. I got it. So we were talking about how embarrassing it is. Thank you. See? He gets me. 18 years, by the way. 18 years, and we're on into year 19 now.
19th year. Prime
so
number.
We were talking about how, so this is related, I'm bringing this home eventually, I promise. So we were talking about how embarrassing people are when they have to resort to income support, and how they don't want to be receiving income support. So in Canada, if you're listening from the States, there are programs, of course, in the U.S., and we lived in the U.S. for many years. But here in Canada, There is no time limit on income support. Like, you can be on income support for more than, I think in Maine it was like a limit of 5 years. You get 60 months.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a Maine thing or a federal thing.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But here in Canada, there are social programs in place to make sure that people don't, for the most part, keeps them off the street, gives them a little bit of money. It's not enough to live on. It's not even close. Like, they know the numbers are not even close to livable, but it is meant to kind of get you back on your feet. And so we were talking about how they used to give out these slips, these sheets of paper, to take in to buy your school books. So you'd go and like the school board would show up and they'd have all the books set up in the library, and that someone would take you through and take out like your math book and your speller and your...
Sorry, this is like high school?
No, this would have been like junior high or younger. So you get a big stack of books for your year, and then at the end of the year you turn them back in, and some of them you had to pay for. So there was like workbooks and things like that.
Okay.
So when you were a recipient of social assistance, you would get this letter in the mail, and you would take it into the school, and it usually showed up late. So you were scrambling, and you spent the first week or so without your books, and everybody else had them. But it would come in like fuchsia or bright yellow or like the brightest color paper you can imagine. And you would have to take that down.
Like it glowed almost.
Oh, it was like a beacon. I remember the checks were blue. I'd wrote a blog one year about the big blue checks. So these letters that would tell the school, this child, his parents or her parents are receiving social assistance, please give them the books and the government will pay for them. The child would be responsible for taking that letter to the school and then taking it going up to the teacher and saying, can I go get my school books in the library? And then you'd have to walk to the library, show the letter to the librarian. As you can tell, especially when somebody is little, these are big, giant. I mean, it might as well be those big novelty checks for how it felt. And I just remember one year there was this girl from another neighborhood, just like the one I lived in, and I saw her one day. She opened her book bag, and like I saw the letter, and she like stuffed it down. She looked over at me and like stuffed it down. And I said, "Don't worry, like it's okay. I got a letter from social assistance from my books too." And she said, "What are you talking about, Vickie Liniger? I'm not on welfare." And I was like, how do you know that that's for welfare, asshole? Like, I didn't say anything to her. I just slunk down and pretend. She was like, my father got a job. My father's not on welfare. Like, okay. She said he was a construction worker or something. Like, yeah, all of our dads are construction workers. Yeah, that's exactly.
It's okay.
That's why you have that bright orange or whatever color letter it was to get your books. It was just such a humiliating thing. And it's just, I don't know if it's easier for kids now. I don't know if there's a better system, if it's like done electronically or by an email, or maybe there's a list, but sending kids in with those beacons of poverty, it was just unnecessary. And I hope there's been changes, and we're lucky that we don't have kids in the public school system, so we don't see that stuff. But I hope it's better. I hope it's better for kids. Because it's certainly not their fault. It's not the parents' fault. Like, the judgment is. So how is that related? That's your question, right?
Yes.
I don't remember. Oh, I was joking around about how the counselor recommended this book. And so ACOA stands for Adult Child of an Alcoholic. So, Adult Children of Alcoholics. This is super uncomfortable. But I came across a thought today that came from this book. And it's been many years since I read this, and it's still on my shelf. And if somebody would like a copy of it, I know this is the second copy I've had because I've given them away. But if somebody would like this copy, I'll send it to you. The mail's back running. The postal strike is over.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a few lines in here about growing up in craziness, where the children grow up with this broken communication, where they don't know, hey, little sweetheart, maybe showing up to say hey. So essentially what it says in the book, and it is a fantastic book. This is I think this is kind of old, actually, when I think about it. It's, see, I'm avoiding the subject because it's super uncomfortable. This book came out in, come on, show me a date. Where's the date? I think 2001. So it's a number of years. I'm sure they've reprinted it. Oh, 2002. I'm sure it's been reprinted many, many times and a bunch of different iterations of the book. Essentially, I'll sum it up for you. When children grow up in turmoil and craziness, they, especially around alcohol, addictions, and there's a wide range. It can be religious, fanaticism, like crazy religious people. Not that they're all, just some are. Addictions, gambling, and alcohol. Those are the major ones, and of course drugs. When parents are dealing with these addictions, there's a lot of stuff that kind of naturally trickles down to the children. And one of the things is that children never know what who they're going to get, whether it's going to a relative's house and this uncle is particularly nice when he's drinking, or this aunt is particularly whatever when she's hungover. Like, you never really know who you're getting, and it kind of messes up your perception of how the world is and how people are going to respond to you and how lovable you are and whether you're worthy of affection. And so the thing that came to mind to me today reminded me of that. And I guess it kind of relates to perfectionism. And the sentence is, I couldn't find it in the book before we started recording, but the line is, maybe if I say exactly the right thing at exactly the right time to exactly the right person, they'll love me. And I feel like that's underlying perfectionism, isn't it? It's like, no matter what you do, and I don't think it's like, I think eventually you get used to not doing it right and for people being mad for no reason whatsoever. But I think there's like this underlying thing that you tell yourself that if I get everything exactly right, or if I say exactly the right thing, there's a magic formula that'll unlock some sort of love that you've been waiting for. And it just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And chasing your whole life trying to get things perfect robs you of so much joy in the moment. So today I went to the kids and I said, I'm just curious now. We've had a really fun adventure this year. It's been really great. And of course we did a lot of really great things too. Yeah. The car is really just a tiny detail in how our life has been. But we've done tons of fun things. And we made clothes. I learned how to make stuff from patterns. We did shows and we started a podcast, and we've done all kinds. You have 2 semesters of school and you've made all kinds of things in school. It's been really fantastic. But I sat the kids down this morning and I said, just want to take a temperature check in the room. If this is it, like if this is as good as it gets, would you guys be okay with that? And it was really funny to look around the room and everybody said, yeah, I would be. Which, I mean, when can you ever say that? And it wasn't like, is everything perfect? Of course not. Could it be better? Of course it could be. But the thing is, at the end of, like in the beginning of each morning, like to sit and look at each other and say, if this was all we get, would it be enough? And I think we all agreed that we're pretty happy with the lives we have. And
I think it's really funny to picture, like, if you're having a rough time with your surroundings or your house or the amount of stuff you have or the speed of your internet or the age of your cell phone or whatever. I think it's really funny, not funny so much as helpful to like imagine, like, what if you brought yourself back from when you were a kid in the 90s or the 80s or the early 2000s or whenever, and brought yourself back to now and be like, look at this, all the stuff that I have. Like, I got this thing in my hand that I can get on the internet, which has all the information. Like, I can communicate with all my friends. Like, we have so much, or like bringing somebody from a third world country or somebody from 100 years ago and be like, look at what we have. And they'd be like, I can't believe you live this well. Like, you have so much. You have access to so much. But day to day, it's easy to feel like I got nothing. I got like this old cell phone.
When you're constantly reaching for something more, then it gives you this feeling. And I mean, who are we kidding? Everything, everywhere you turn, is marketing. It's all, true, your life will be complete if you have this. And there's a new campaign. The boys get they get so annoyed with it because it's a credit card commercial, but it's like how they already have what they need, and that the credit card is not going to give them happiness. And it's like, don't you guys want us to spend more? But it's a really cool campaign because the boys are like, oh, this is so stupid because it's a credit card company. But it really great campaign. But it really comes down to that. Like all the things in my life right now that, like when you look at it, I'm a little bit older, I think, than probably a lot of the people listening. So I don't know. I don't mean to be when you get my age, but it really is. I feel like I feel like I watch the movies every year and I listen to the songs, and it's like, no, the things that matter are family and health and like you don't really get a chance to sit still and exactly. Yeah, but 100 presents under the tree would be nice. Yeah, but wouldn't this be nice? And you're just butting your whole life. But really, the important stuff, like, so, and I think that's a question going forward. Like that's my question going into the new year is, okay, what's not good in your life? And what can we do about it? Like if you don't like your job, or if you're going off to work every day to a job you hate to pay for a house that you don't get to spend any time in, and you're paying for whatever for your kids and you never see them and you don't know them and you're having trouble because you don't get a chance to talk to them because you're eating meals in the car on the way to a lesson. Like, what do you want? Yeah. What do you want? Like, what do you actually want? Write it down. Like, I want a better relationship with my children. I want a better relationship with my spouse, or I want better health. Like, okay, then there you go. Then let's work on that. But I think always feeling like you're always lacking and you're never going to be enough. Like, just stop the train. Like, just get off the train. So I remember Danielle Hain was on our podcast many years ago, and we were talking about the law of attraction and manifesting and all that stuff. And she is such a brilliant, brilliant person. And she gave me this little analogy, and she said, Vickie, okay, so you've ridden the buses, which is funny because now I'm on the buses all the time. And I was like, yeah, years ago I rode the bus. And she said, so, okay, imagine you want to go to Kitty Vitty, which is in the east end of St. John's. She said, imagine you are at the Village Mall, which is in the middle, and you end up on a bus, and you realize halfway through the ride that you were on the bus to Mount Pearl. She said, so what do you do? And so my answer was, you stay on the bus because it'll go back to the village, and then you transfer and get to... And she said, no. You pull the button, you pull the string, and you wait till the next stop comes, and you get off that bus, and you start walking to Kitty Vitty. And it makes, it's such a good rule to live by. Like, if you're not where you want to be, change it. What can you do today? What step can you take today to work towards, what you actually want? Like, were we ready to start a podcast? Absolutely not. If you've been watching, you know. We didn't have a marketing plan. We didn't have anything, we just were turn the camera on and see if it works. It was really like that. And so now we're 5 episodes in. We're getting wonderful feedback. Thank you to everybody that's listening. It's so nice to get feedback and hear people say what they like about it and suggestions and, I don't know where it's headed, but I know this is something that I wanted to do. And here we are, and I love working.
We're just doing the next fun thing. It feels good.
Exactly. So I don't know. I guess that's it. Are we all done for today?
All right.
That was all. I wanted to say that thing about... I did want to say that thing about the perfectionism. Because I know Christmas Day, it's probably already too late by Christmas morning or whenever we release the podcast, but it's, a little bit of fun in your life, a little bit of creativity.
This will be released on Christmas Day.
Yeah. So we'll do one for New Year's Day also, which is our son's birthday. He's going to be 14. Nuts.
Yep. And just a few weeks later, the other one will be 11.
And you'll be 42.
42.
So if you can't tell, all of our events are from the 17th of December.
Except for your birthday.
That's the only thing that's
December 17th to January 17th, there's
all the things.
Birthdays and anniversaries and Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff.
Every event. Everything. Except for St. Patrick's Day and Regatta Day, which are my two favorites.
So Hallmark gets a lot of business from us.
It's a lot of cake. It's a lot of cake.
Excuse me.
And the decorating, so we put up our tree super early because we take it down pretty fast after Christmas so that we're not doing Christmas stuff on Henry's birthday. That was a fun New Year's Eve that we spent in labor in the hospital. I actually went in the day before New Year's.
The day before New Year's Eve. It was the 30th.
Yep, the day before New Year's Eve. And when they came in and said congratulations on the baby and all that, I was like, oh, so what do you guys do for New Year's Eve? They were like, Vickie?
It's the next day.
Miss Morgan?
It's the next year.
It's already New Year's Day. I was like, what? 36 hours. He was worth it. He was so fun. Our kids are the most fun people that I've ever met. And so as far as Tibbs Eve and trying to get out there tonight to have a few drinks and stuff, no, not a chance. I'm excited about spending time with the boys because they're good fun.
They are
kids.
A lot of fun.
They're fun people.
And we have been making things this year for gifts, and that's been fun.
We're really lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what you said about looking back at what would your younger self think. And if I went to 10-year-old me, or the me that we saw the other night, we watched the Christmas
home videos from 1990.
Ooh, what a cluster. Oh my God. So just in the most basic sense, I have 2 older brothers that are out wandering the world. Neither one of them can stand me. And it wasn't Mom said when she first brought me home from the hospital, they couldn't stand me. So it's not I guess your relationship's deteriorated. No, deteriorated. Nah, they never liked me.
From the beginning.
It's fantastic.
That's their problem, though.
It was super uncomfortable. I forget where I was going with that.
We were watching the video.
Just the things that, where my life is right now compared to if someone had told 13-year-old me with that bad haircut and ill-fitting clothes.
You were pretty adorable.
Oh, I'm really glad you think so. But I had this sweetest little brother, though, Glenn, who was just a little angel. And I miss him. And I've got a song out there. If you haven't heard it, it's called Jimmy Glenn. And I wrote it a few years ago, around this time of year. And was produced by Corey Tetford. And of course, Corey played on there. And Chris LeDrew played some pedal steel. And it's the song that people ask for. It's the most... It happened very, very fast. And very proud of it. And so we did a music video. It's on YouTube also. We should put a link to that in our description. Sure. But he was a really sweet kid.
Mulberry Creek.
He is a sweet kid.
Throw out there that it is Mulberry Creek is the name of our band.
Yeah.
In case people wanted to go to socials and look up.
Yeah.
If you went and looked up Are You Mad at Me, the band, you wouldn't find anything. But Mulberry Creek is our
How about
band.
Are You Mad at This Band? Okay, so I'm here now. I don't know how long we've been doing the show, but I just landed.
40 minutes in, and
that's what I
we're
figured.
starting now.
45 minutes is about the sweet spot when I interview other people. There's a light that comes over them, and they become them like their best selves. So I guess that just happened to me. So there was a couple of stories that I wanted to tell for this episode.
Can you turn your earring lights on?
I think they're busted.
Oh, they did?
I wore them the
that's
other
a
day
shame.
at that thing at the rooms when we went to the choir with Emily and Karen. Are they coming on?
No.
Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry. Well,
I just
so
thought it would be a nice addition to your story.
Well, these aren't Christmas stories. I thought it went along with the theme of, and I did tell Christmas stories at the shows, which I didn't know I had that many Christmas stories, and I've got more for next year, so I'm excited about Christmas shows.
It was funny to do a couple of Christmas themed comedy shows and have a bunch of uncomfortable Christmas stories to tell to audiences that hadn't heard any of your stories before.
It was nice to tell them in a room, a safe room where everybody laughed along with me, instead of it being like a trauma.
Yeah.
It was really fun to tell them, and I had, of course, my cousin Bev, like I said, showed up, and so we lived. So we not at the same time, but we grew up in the same community. Her dad and my mom are brother and sister, and so we actually, the house that we lived in for a long time in St. Philip's, her family lived in for a while, for years. So when I was telling those stories, she was like, "Yeah, that's all true.
Yeah.
Every word of it was true." And
It was just family stories for her.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. But it was fun to share it in a room and have it not be painful, but have it be funny and like look at it from a different perspective. So I'm definitely recommending trying comedy if you haven't done it before.
If you got shit to work out.
Yeah. So
Get
a
on
couple of
stage.
stories that occurred to me. I thought with the name of the podcast being "Are You Mad at Me?" I was thinking the other night, like I could probably do a story every single episode of people that I think are out in the world mad at me. And so last week we did one where I was at jobs and I sent emails to people that I probably shouldn't have. Or, I did me.
You made the best choice with the information you had in front of you at the time.
Yeah.
There you go.
And, I don't know. Kind of feel like an old dog under the porch sometimes. Like sometimes it'll bite you. So you should watch out because, I don't keep secrets. And I do let it get to a little boil, little rage. And then eventually I do usually say, all right, that's enough of that. But there was a couple stories, and I was thinking this theme for tonight or today could be weddings I've ruined. What do you think?
Weddings you've ruined.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't ours, because ours was fantastic.
No, ours was really, really good. And I think we've already talked about that where we did it at Rabbit Town.
We did, yep.
And our friend Aiden Flynn did the penning the carol for us. And
Yes, enough about Aiden. We talked about it already. Jeez.
Is there something you want to talk about, honey? Oh, my God. Okay, so back in the day, back before our wonderful wedding, before Josh came into my life.
For our great wedding.
That was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so back many, many moons ago, I got married to somebody else. It was the biggest mistake of my life.
I think you should retitle this segment.
Weddings I've ruined.
Not weddings I've ruined, but weddings I have been told that I ruined after the fact.
Where I was left to ask at the end, "Are you mad at me?"
Someone told me at some point after the fact, you ruined this. Okay.
I wish that was a joke. It's not. Okay, so going
Hopefully
back.
we hooked people in with it.
So I feel like I should say ahead of time. The first time I got married, it was at a hockey game. During a hockey game, a St. John's Maple Leafs game, and it was at Center Ice, and the ceremony was 7 minutes long. It was the wedding, the actual leading up to it. I wrote columns for the Telegram. I was on all the radio stations. I was in the hockey news. It was going to be on Weird Weddings, but they were off season.
It was a big deal. What's Weird Weddings?
Weird Weddings was a thing on like one of those Showtime stations here in Canada,
Okay.
and they would go, and so they were going to come down, but they're off season. They had just finished their season.
I didn't know that.
But they said otherwise they would have been there. So it was everywhere. 6,742 people, okay, in attendance. So if you're going to make a mistake, make it in front of 6,000.
Do it big.
Yeah, I don't know if that number is right. 6,000. I used to know that. Anyway.
I'm sure I can
The
Google
only
it.
detail that I got wrong in that wedding was who I married. It was a massive mistake, okay? Massive. And humiliating because I, again, as I mentioned, was writing columns for the Telegram. And I don't mean a little tiny blurb like in the want ads. It was like full-page spread with photo shoots of me spread all over the banner. Like they'd put it on the front banner of the Telegram, and then you open it up to the page, and it would be a full-page spread each month when I was leading up to the wedding. So to say that when I left before the All-Star break, it was pretty embarrassing. It was a terrible relationship, and I shouldn't have got married. But Buddy DePuffin was the puck bearer, who has since passed away. Chris was amazing. But it was a really fun night. The party was fantastic. We had our reception across the road so what's Mary Brown Center now used to be Mile 1 Center, and across the road was a place called Club 1. And we had booked, when I say we, I mean I had booked Club 1 for the reception. And I know that he would say he would agree to that because we ran into each other when you and I first met. We were in a grocery store and he was getting remarried, and he said, "Hey, planning a wedding is really hard." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And he was like, "Yeah, I didn't do anything for hours." Like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I didn't slam his face into tomatoes, but I wish I had, because we were standing next to a rack of tomatoes. But anyway, I digress. So we're going across the road to the reception, and I've got a string of nieces and nephews coming behind me. We've got a bunch of kids because I did a kid-friendly wedding. We went, first of all, most people were at the hockey game, and then we went across the road to Club 1. So I'm walking across the road to Club 1 with a big giant wedding dress train behind me, and all my bridesmaids are around me, and they're all wearing hockey jerseys and with dresses underneath and all that. And so we get to the door, and the bouncer, it was a private event, but they had their staff on because it was whatever night of the week it was. And the guy, before I got there, had said, "No kids allowed in the bar." And so I didn't know this. So the girls were gone up ahead, and they were like, you cannot, like, the wedding party's coming across, and we got 250 people coming, and there's a lot of kids. Like, what do you mean there's no kids? So they go to my then partner, and they said, "Vickie, like, they're not letting kids in." And Vickie's whole, like, "Oh, we had so many nieces and nephews there."
Right.
And he was too drunk to care one way or the other. And he was like, "Just ask Vickie about it." And they were like, "You can't possibly be serious. You're going to push this off on Vickie on her wedding day instead of you just going up and talking to the bouncer." And that's exactly what played out. I got up to the door, and it was fixed pretty fast, but there was some yelling and swearing. And the kids got in, and the reception was great because all my friends were there. But again, biggest mistake of my life. Like, the only detail I got wrong, and he was a common thread, was I should never have gotten married to him, ever. So that's the first one. So as I mentioned, he didn't make it to the All-Star break, which, if you're a hockey fan, you know that that's like February. Okay, so we got married in October. By February, I was gone. And so I was not in great shape, not because the relationship had broken up, because I couldn't have cared less about that, but I had gotten married, again, in front of over 6,000 people with a readership of whatever, all in the magazines. I was in pretty bad shape, like, mentally.
It was a lot.
It was a lot, right? So that was the year that 2 different friends decided that they were going to get married. Now, I knew my limitations.
Selfish, really.
No, it's okay that they got married. The problem came in when they asked me to be their maid of honor. Now, one of them, I was just a bridesmaid. I was just a bridesmaid in one. But in the other one, I was maid of honor. Now, when they came and asked me, I was going through a divorce, because it takes a year to get divorced, right? So during this time, these 2 people that I had grown up with decide that they want me in their wedding party, which is a huge honor, and they had been in my wedding party. Awesome, right? So I say, I don't know if I'm in good shape for being in a wedding. Like, I can't really participate right now. So the one where I was a bridesmaid, let's start with that one. There was a seamstress in Torbay who was making dresses. And I don't remember how much it cost to get the dresses custom made, but I didn't have any money. So I was like, "Look, I shouldn't be here. I'm not a fan of weddings right now, or marriage, so maybe I should step back." No, absolutely not. She offered to pay for my dress. Like, okay, I also don't have a car. I can't get to the fittings. That's okay, I'll come pick you up. So you can see I'm protesting as we go along. Instead of somebody saying, "I respect your boundaries, you're free.
Maybe this isn't a good time for you."
I release you. I'm hearing you say it's not a good time for you, but I'm ignoring that. Push through anyway. So the day of the wedding comes.
I can already see how you're ruining this wedding.
Oh, no, that has nothing to do with it. No, this was just the lead up, and they were being very friendly. And so we get to the wedding, and I am angrily single. Not like just, that's the best way to
Violently
describe.
single.
No, angrily. Very much like rolling my eyes at the vows, like, "Oh, the party favors, give me a break, gag me with a spoon," like, ugh, like I, wanted to hang myself in the floral arrangements. So my job for the reception was to take care of, let's say, one of the more important guests who may or may not have had an issue with alcohol.
All right.
And there was some concern that this person might cause a scene or cause trouble in some way. So my assignment for the reception was to take care of this individual. Now, I thought this person was a blast. I thought he was so much fun, and I loved him. So it was like, yes, sign me up.
Sounds good.
I'm going to, absolutely, I'll be glued to his hip the whole night. And I did. There was no incident. He didn't get into trouble. Everything went fine.
Nailed it.
At the end of the evening, I feel like I've done my part. I showed up. I wore the damn dress. I did the pictures. I took care of the special guest. So then I'm sitting there like, I don't even think I was drinking that night. But anyway, all the bridesmaids start cleaning up. And I'm like, screw that. I'm not getting paid to clean up. So I'm just sitting there like...
Isn't there usually a staff at a wedding reception?
Well, it depends. It depends on how much you paid for the reception hall. Yeah. Sometimes when you get a discount, you're responsible for the busing and the...
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what the situation was. What I do know is that I'm sitting there with my feet up because I've been taking care of this rambunctious gentleman all evening and, you know, trying to have a good time, even though I'm really not fit. I'm not fit to be out in public.
Yeah.
The bride comes over in her dress and spray tan and starts screaming at me that I ruined her wedding. I was like, how did I do that? Well, one of the bridesmaids, turns out she's pregnant. She's 3 months pregnant, and she's cleaning up, and you're sitting here on your ass. And I was like, I've been taking care of fill in the blank right here all night.
You're welcome.
She was like, yeah, well, you ruined my wedding. Storms off. We didn't talk for months. That's story number 1. Story number 2.
Way to go, Vickie.
Yeah. So, again, the question comes along. I'm pretty sure she's not listening to the podcast, but, you know, I'd like to ask her now if she's listening. Are you mad at me?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, maybe looking back, when somebody says, I'm not ready for this, maybe people should listen. I don't know. Or I should have, I don't know, cleaned up and probably drove everybody home and, I don't know, dry cleaned everybody's dresses afterwards.
There's a lot of good people on both sides.
It just came back to me the other day. What did you say? What did you just say?
I said there's a lot of good people on both sides, really.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So part 2. This is this different wedding, but it's in that same year. Okay. And I get asked to be maid of honor. She had been maid of honor. Who's good with story time? We all good? We ready to wrap it up?
I'm loving it.
Really?
Loving story time.
I was going to say at my show the other night, my goal is to make you feel, not you necessarily, but you, the universal you, feel better about your life because mine is so funny. Is that a good way to put it?
So hilarious.
So hilarious. Okay, so picture it. It's Newfoundland. Vickie Liniger has just gotten married at a hockey game and divorced within 4 months. Left single 4 months later. The divorce actually took another year. Legally, it had to take another year of separation. So I get asked to be maid of honor. And again, not pro-wedding at this point. Still a little messed up. I can't stress this enough. Couldn't have cared less about the relationship. It was embarrassing that there was so many people. Like, I would get recognized downtown as the hockey woman, as the hockey wedding.
Hockey
girl.
wedding.
Yeah, like there were, the furthest one was this guy from Ontario was down with his son visiting or something. And he was like, you know, just struck up a conversation. And he was like, how come you're not dancing or how come you're not whatever? And I was like, I'm just a little embarrassed. I feel like all these people are kind of staring at me. And he was like, that's ridiculous. And I was like, no, I did something kind of stupid across the road there a little while ago and I got married at hockey game. He was like, oh, I heard about you. Yeah. I didn't imagine it. It was a lot of people knew about it. And it was, you know, again, if you're going to make a mistake, you should do it in front of as many people as possible. So, maid of honor. She was maid of honor at mine. I had to be maid of honor at hers. And I said, I'm not cut out for this. I don't know how to do maid of honor stuff.
Not a good time.
I had a hockey wedding. My stuff was, we did paintball and hockey jerseys. Don't know how to do the traditional stuff. I have no idea what to be doing.
Maid of honor is pretty big, right? Like it's
a pretty big
like
deal.
A lot of organization, a lot of making stuff happen, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Should be.
I mean, there was also like 5 or 6 of us, and then the mom and the mother-in-law and all those things. There was a whole lot of women around. So let me say this: everything got done, not by me. Again, no vehicle, no money. had no idea what to be doing, not a girly girl, didn't, like, as far as returning the favor, I appreciate it, but when I said, this is not good for me right now, I'm not in a position, nobody listened. So we plow on through. It's the night before the wedding, and I am a wreck. We're putting together these bouquets of like plastic flowers or whatever, and so it's the night a night before her wedding, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry I haven't done all the stuff I'm supposed to do. Like, I've just been so upset about being divorced at my age. Just like, I'm a mess. So I'm sitting there crying, and she's, comforting me, and she's like, no, it's okay. Everything's great. It's going to be great. I don't know how long after the wedding. It might have been that night, the wedding night, if I'm not mistaken. There was an angry bride in full regalia screaming at me that I ruined her wedding. She was like, you had me up the night before my wedding crying about your friggin' botched
Divorce.
wedding. Yeah, about your divorce. And then she dropped a lovely bomb on me and said, I should have just had, fill in a name here, because she's done everything and you've done nothing. And I was like, you should have had her for your maid of honor. I told you I didn't want to do it. Anyway.
We've been over this.
Yeah. Question goes out to her. I'm sure she's not listening, because that's the kind of friends they are. But question is this bitchy? We should erase this whole episode.
We'll just delete this. No, so never mind. If you're listening to this, you're not, because I deleted it and I didn't post it. This never happened.
But are you mad at me? I don't know. At this point in my life, I look back at those things and go, maybe I wasn't the biggest piece of shit in the world. Maybe I spoke up and said, this is not good for me. And maybe I should have been louder about it.
And again, making the best choice with the information you have in front of you at the time is all you can do, really, right? Same as anytime.
This time of year brings stuff like that up, because it's like, well, what could I have done different? And maybe I should have done this, and maybe should have done that. And then it's been years, and there's still like this like animosity or this like standoffishness. And it's like, you know what? Just see yourself out.
Yeah. If
you don't want to be a part of my life, see ya. That's okay.
Yep.
There'll be other people, but if you're in my life taking up room, this is getting very negative. But it is that time of year, I think, where, I don't know. It's a hard time of year.
It can be. And again, we're focusing on what if this is as good as it gets, and we're doing pretty good. We're enjoying our life and enjoying our kids and our dogs and our food.
I think these stories are important because they're real. And as much as I'm cringing now and want to curl up in a ball and just roll under this table, I'm certain that there's somebody listening going, I had a friend like that too. Or maybe there was a time where I said no and people still didn't listen, and I ended up in a situation where all of a sudden I'm responsible for somebody's thing being ruined. Like, sometimes it's not. Most of the time it's not. Like, we really, if you're not growing up in a situation where it's okay to express yourself, or where people are just too busy to hear you because there's so many friggin' kids, or whatever you got going on. Like, these are different times now where we actually, it's a different parenting style these days, different relationships. The whole idea of like, go hug your uncle or go hug your grandfather.
Yeah.
I don't think a whole lot of people subscribe to that anymore. So I think we've really evolved in a lot of ways.
There's changes for sure.
Yeah. So if you're out holiday visiting, please don't make your kids hug people that they don't want to hug. And if your dog doesn't like somebody, trust your dogs. They're good judges of character. Obviously, this one, she learned how to fetch today. Maybe learned how to fetch, so we're pretty happy with that.
Now, to be fair, she learned how to fetch last summer when we were taking her to the dog park and teaching her, and we were amazed that she could get a ball and bring it back to us and drop it, because none of our other beagles have been able to do that. And then, like, a week later, she just stopped doing it. It's like, did she forget how to do it? Did she hit her head? What's happening here? And so then today, you started throwing the ball to her again, and she started bringing it back to you and dropping it at your feet.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and not letting
you
the other
forgot,
dogs
and
have
then
it.
you remembered again.
And Sparky caught on also, and he's 8 years old, and he never knew how to fetch, and he was doing it today,
he was just
watching her.
Baby's lead.
Yeah, she's a pretty feisty little thing. We love her. I want to tell some positive stories. I want to bring it back and tell some funny stuff. Or I don't know. What you got? Any funny stories?
Are you looking for funny stories?
Yeah, I'm kind of reaching out and saying, hey, can you give me a little bit of buoyancy here and drag me back up?
I just wanted to point out that you said a second ago like you felt like you wanted to curl up into a ball and stop talking to anybody or whatever, but I think it's important to point out that you're dressed like a Christmas tree. For anyone that's not watching the video,
Hey,
you might hear a little dingle dingle every now and then. That's Vickie's elf shoes with bells on them.
look, what is it? Appearances can be deceiving. I actually have another carrot. So this dress is from Ginger Sparkle Dust, and I'm gonna post. I think I might do the 12 days of Christmas. I might do a joke from my sets because there was a lot of them, and I feel like I've been afraid to post them because I don't want to offend. I don't want to whatever. Like I don't know. There's a whole bunch of what's that imposter syndrome just eating away at me. So I avoided. Like even though when I come home from a set, Josh captions it and edits it and does amazing video editing for me. And I've been afraid to post it. So I think I might post a joke a day for the 12 days of Christmas. And where are we going to post those? TikTok?
We've been putting stuff on the
YouTube.
Are You Mad at Me TikTok, which is this podcast and comedy stuff. And then we have...
probably some YouTube shorts also.
Yeah, YouTube.
But I think it might be fun to put something on there every single day for the 12 days of Christmas. Many years ago, I had a blog that I put out every day for the 12 days of Christmas. And it was, I mean, I know sometimes it's a comfort to have something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to more Nate Bargatze, Nateland podcast, because they are the highlight of my listening right now. Like we've binge watched, I think, everything that's on Netflix, and we're getting through the Nateland podcast, and they are just absolutely so funny. So funny. And watching him share the stories of what he's dreaming of doing. And then it was like, hey, that
was 3 years ago, and now
we're watching
like
that
a special
special.
happens.
Yeah, he was talking about that. Oh my God. So watching his dreams come true and listening to the other comedians that he has on the podcast, and they're so natural. Like they're being honest about stuff, and they're talking about shows that don't go well, shows that they're not selling a lot of tickets, like, or gigs that whatever, and they're just really normal and natural, and it's really sweet. So I'm really enjoying that, and I must be stressed out because I keep losing my train of thought here.
Well, I'll tell you what. Last night, Vickie made a pan of cinnamon buns, and we don't have Cinnabon here in Newfoundland. They might have it in other parts of Canada, but we don't have one here. And Cinnabon is a lot. Like, it's one of those things where you pay like $12 for a cinnamon bun, and it's like, this is more sugar than my body has had in the whole year. In one little serving. But they're so friggin' good. And you made a batch of cinnamon buns last night it's like Cinnabon delivered them directly, personally to our house. It was so good. So I've really been enjoying the baking and the cooking. I might not come out the other side
as slender as you went in.
As slight as I have
Live. Nice.
But yeah, it's been and I'm looking forward to making our Christmas chili.
Oh yeah, the turkey chili is going to be awesome.
Turkey chili.
There's a theme there. There's a Christmas theme. So I know we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. And when I say we, I mean I have been rambling about entrepreneurship and setting up a website and podcasting and all those things and how they all kind of link back. And I don't know if people want to fast forward through this part. I lost track of where we were with the whole thing. But podcasting, do we talk about podcasting? Yeah, we talked about the podcast and hosting. Coming back to the entrepreneurship idea of letting people get to know you and setting up a website that has e-commerce. So we did that. We went through Shopify. I set up the website, and it has my books on there. So you can go on and check out the stuff. So I think I'm going to change it. Right now it says catalog, but I think I might change it to stuff I made.
Yeah.
Because it's a tricky thing. Like, is that a thing that I want to do again? Like, I have a few more books that I want to write, a few more things that I want to do, but I don't know. Like, I was going to put on there, like, I could be your consultant to do your self-publishing, and I could also host your whatever, and I could be a comedian, and I could whatever. And it's like, what are you good at? And so I woke up this morning with that thought on my mind of, what are you good at? Like, what's your niche? Like, what? I don't know if I could ever be one thing.
I think that's really hard. And I think that's something that I struggle with too. Like, because I see people that are like, a really good guitar player, and it's like, oh, this guy, he does Instagram videos or whatever, and he's a really good guitar player. He plays in this band, or he's this person's a really good painter, and and it's like, I'm sure even those people have more things that they want to be doing, or more things that they're good at, or maybe they don't. I don't know, but it seems like you should have one thing, and it's like, well, I don't like. We'll play shows in the summer months, or record music or whatever, and it's like, all I want to be doing is playing guitar. And I can't think of anything else that I want to be doing. And then, like right now, I might pick the guitar up every now and then and strum, but I don't like, we're focused on the podcast, and I'm really enjoying making the podcast, and sometimes it's graphic design stuff or whatever. But like feeling like you have to be a person that does a thing is hard. Like it's limiting. And
I think I'd like to hear from some farmers who have big pieces of land, and I think there's some rules there about farming where you don't grow the same crop every year. Like you have to rotate your
rotating
your crops, right? Or unless you have, are there farms that do the same thing all the time? There must be.
I think it depends on the crop.
They must replenish the soil in some way if they're growing the same stuff every year. But I think that's kind of the idea of like you can be different things. I haven't figured it out yet. I really haven't, because it's still that pressure of, well, if you're ever going to be really good at anything. But like, I don't know. Who cares if I'm good at anything?
But what if you enjoy doing a bunch of different things and they don't necessarily go together?
Or what if someone's out there saying, well, if you're good at this thing, that should be what you do. And then maybe it's good to be an example of, well, this person's never niched down. This person has a website that's kind of like how can I put it? A dumpster, like a dumpster fire. And it's not on fire, but maybe it's like a dumping ground of like, this is all the stuff I do. Here's just one place. Instead of it being like, I've got, I don't know, maybe 10 Instagram pages. I got at least 7 TikToks. Because every time I come up with a new idea, I start a brand new company. I start a new website. I start a new Facebook page. And it's like, someone actually said to me one time, there's just so much. I don't know what to support. Which it was funny for her because she wasn't a very nice person and she didn't support any of it. But she was like, it's just all because of you, though. It's your fault that I don't support it. Like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
And again, I think there's a whole world of people out there. And I know I'm not the only person that has had that said to them, who has felt like I have to excel at one thing to be happy. Like, what if your example, like what if your life as an artist is the example that you can do everything kind of a little bit okay. You don't have to be an expert at any of it, but what if you're just surviving? Like, because I've gotten so far away from it, but years ago when we first moved away to Maine, I wrote a blog about how anxious I got around Christmas. So I was going to make a joke earlier, like Ginger Sparkles is a character that I do, but a couple of years ago, there was a new character born. Her name was Seasonal Depression. And she's got a whole different dress and outfit, and she's got black eyeliner and a black wig and all that. Like, she's very emo. But that's a character too. But years ago I started a blog around Christmas time because I was just so overwhelmed with all the pressure to get it all right. And here I am 18 years later, still still like on my soapbox about it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. But I think I need to hear it more than anybody else.
Right.
It doesn't need to be perfect. Health is more important than literally anything. And like, yeah, but some presents would be nice. Like, yeah, all right. So go over to the ward, whatever ward at the hospital and see how many people would kill to trade places with you and your healthy body.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Newfoundlander thing too. It's a Catholic guilt thing. It's, well, somebody's always got it worse. And yes, that's true. And maybe you do have it bad. So what can we do about it? What do you need? Like, write it down. You write me a message. I don't care. Send me an email. What do you need? What would you like to change in your life? The New Year's coming up. You don't need to do a New Year's resolution, but why not today? What do you want? What do you want out of your life? Say it out loud. If you can think it, write it down. Say it out loud. Say it to safe people. We're safe people. Send us an email. Tell us what you want to do in the new year. What you like. So imagine this time next year, when we're still doing the podcast and everything's chugging along and I've shared every embarrassing story I can possibly think of. In a year from now, what do you want to be able to say? What would you like to accomplish? Because you can do a lot in a year. People underestimate what they can get done in a year and they overestimate what they can get done. I don't know. Tony Robbins has a formula about that. But like, what do you want? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to write a song? Do you want to learn how to play guitar? Do you want to take some singing lessons? Do you want to walk more? Do you want to meditate more? Do you want to journal? Do you want to buy some crappy old notebooks and a handful of pens and journal every day? Which is all things that serve you. If I could go back to that person that I was 17 or 18 years ago writing that blog, I couldn't imagine swallowing food at Christmas. I couldn't imagine not having panic attacks all through Christmas. Like, I was a mess. So I started writing it down. And there was thousands of views on there. And the feedback was fantastic. Not from everybody. Some of the people that were in the blogs were very upset. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted me to write about you better, you should have acted better. Really. And if you want to write a blog about me, if I've crossed you in some form of life, write a blog. Do it. Really. Everybody's got a story. and if I would hate to think that someone's carrying me around in their craw, that I've damaged them in some way, but like, write it down. Write a play about me. I don't care, because I'm going to keep writing, and I'm going to keep telling stories, and I'm going to keep telling those stories that are happening in the dark, in back rooms. I'm not good at keeping secrets, and I have no intention of changing that. People who are hurting other people, I mean, it's just, life is too short, and your mental health matters. And if you can find something that makes you feel good, do that thing. And if it feels good to connect with other people who are doing that thing, call it a hobby. I read something about that when you turn a hobby into a career, that's how you destroy it.
It loses the fun.
When you can actually just do things because it's fun, like playing guitar or singing or learning a new instrument or whatever. When it's a hobby, you can enjoy it. When it becomes a career or a thing you do for money,
then it's serious.
Exactly. So people, like, maybe I'm a really good hobbyist. I don't know. I'm having fun. I know it might not sound like it today because I'm complaining and telling all these sad stories, but, you know, whatever. It's Christmas. That's what we're supposed to do.
So
right?
I think a year from now, what I would like for both of us is to have the things that we love to be doing, these hobbies that we're doing and we're learning. I think that I would love to be supported financially by all these things that we are enjoying so much. Well, you're going to
be done with graphic design at the end
I'm
of
going to be done with school
in the summer?
And
okay, so a year from now, I would like to wake up in the morning and open up my email and just see Interact, sale, PayPal, where I have put out enough marketing and put out enough material that while I sleep, people are discovering my books, and they're discovering my podcast, and they're discovering things I've made in the past, and either they're getting in touch to say, can you help me do one can you help me do that thing? Or I just found your book on filmmaking, or I found your book about your baby who died, or I found your book about self-publishing, or I found your children's book that you wrote about Ginger Sparkle Dust. Like, I want to make money while I'm sleeping with the creations that I've made.
Passive
and
income.
While I'm still making, and that money would go towards making new things. But ideally, I would like to see an inbox with purchase. And I'm inspired. There was a lady, I can't remember her name, but I remember her YouTube channel is called Pin Cut Sew. And so one night I couldn't sleep, and I was just on YouTube, and this video popped up, and it said how to make money sewing. And at the time, this was in the summertime, and I was making a whole lot of patterns, and I got a bunch of sewing machines and all this stuff. And it caught my attention. So I'm watching this lady's video, and she's talking about how she has done all these different things to make money, as like hemming people's pains, fixing people's prom dresses. And then she had a corporate or an industrial job where she was hemming curtains, and she hated all of it. And so in her video, she says, I talk about this in my book. And then she describes how she made money teaching children's classes in sewing, and how she made money at that, and how she shares in her book how much to charge, how many kids you can handle, what kind of equipment you need. She really broke down exactly her business plan, which most people would say, oh, isn't that secret? Isn't that like, shouldn't you keep that close to the chest? But like, no, she's in Hawaii. She doesn't care if someone in Newfoundland makes a kid sewing class.
Yeah.
So I went and bought her book, 6 o'clock in the morning, even though I actually got out of bed, went downstairs, got my phone, looked her up, bought the book at 6 a.m. while she was sleeping. And I love it. It's a very short book. It's very succinct. It tells exactly what it promised it would tell. She self-published it, and she sold it from her own website. So I spent $22 American on her 65-page book. The font was huge. It had a bunch of pictures. And I think it was one of the best purchases I have ever made, because that lady is an entrepreneur. She makes money teaching classes to kids. Yep. She also makes money from her book while she sleeps. She's an expert at the thing she's doing. She probably has lots of other hobbies. She's got a Facebook page and she's got a website, but she also sells her book through this YouTube video that other people are watching while she sleeps.
Yeah.
That's aside from my own success that I'm hoping for. That's just a good business model.
Right.
Those are like people, when they get a chance to get to know you, they're much more inclined to go buy your book if they've seen a 15-minute video of you sharing your story, instead of an ad popping up on Facebook that costs you whatever, and it's a bunch of bots clicking on it, so it looks like you...
Yeah.
It looks like the successful ad, but nothing ever results in sales. So my entrepreneurship advice, from one business owner to another, from one creative to another, first of all, we need to accept that it's okay to make money, period. No matter how you do it. It's okay to make money. It's okay to enjoy money. It's okay to want money. It's not a dirty thing to actually be paid for what you provide. And if you make somebody's day brighter because you performed a joke, or because you played a song, or because you passed them their McDonald's fries, you made their life better, you deserve to get paid for it.
Right.
That's my advice to artists. And I'm going to listen back to this because I need to hear this too. And so setting up the website, it was hard and I didn't know how to do it, but now I do know how to do it. And if you want me to set up yours, I can do that for you. There's a thing that we can exchange, and maybe you can do something for me. I don't know. Anyway, that's my rant about entrepreneurship, because it might be Christmas, but life is going to keep on going. On Boxing Day, it's going to be Josh's birthday, and then the day after that is going to be it's going to be a few days in between Christmas, and we're right back into, but New Year's, you got to do something for New Year's, and what's your resolution? Oh my God, it can be New Year's. This day happens every single year.
Yeah.
Really, it doesn't need to be January 1st. And you don't need to beat yourself up if you broke your resolution on the 7th of January. You can start over on the 8th of January. I'm telling you that as an adult. In case you needed an adult to give you permission or tell you that that's okay, I'll be that for you. Send it back to me one of these days and say, you know what, Vickie, if you want to do those things, you can give me permission too. I don't mean you, Josh. You're not the boss of me.
You're not the boss of me. I think this has been our best Christmas episode yet.
Okay. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I have to go put on some sweatpants and start. What are we cooking? Broccoli soup tonight.
We're making some soup, and I think we're gonna go out in the snow and make a little walk down to the mall and get some fresh air
see
and
all
some
the
exercise.
craziness.
See some craziness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're open regular hours today.
Oh, they 100% are.
Yeah.
So tomorrow everything will close here at 6:00, and then
Yeah.
Christmas Day, it's so claustrophobic. Everything shuts down, and then Boxing Day it should be back open again on Thursday and Friday, and then the weekend. I mean, it's going to be. Whew, I'm glad we're not out on the road in a car tonight.
Nice.
Like it's like that craziness. We're going to be cozy at home, eating our broccoli soup, watching maybe some Christmas movies, or maybe just watching some more Nateland. I don't know, because you do what makes you happy.
I keep asking everybody to watch Christmas movies with me, and everybody's just like playing Fortnite and watching Nate Bargatze and cooking cinnamon buns, and I'm like,
we've been watching Christmas movies since October. We spread it out because there's no time of year that's perfect for it. And also, just a note to everybody that has reached out to say we're fans of Nate Bargatze. I can't hear that enough. I love it. Like
this episode has been brought to you by the Nate Bargatze podcast. No,
it's not. But man, he's just the sweetest. He's so funny. I just love him so much. And man, if there's not a Nate Bargatze shirt under my tree, man, heads are gonna roll.
Oh boy.
I just want to. Oh, I can't wait. And the plan, I don't know if we'll get there in the next year, but man, oh man, I can't wait to go to Nashville. I'm going to hang out at Zany's until Brian Bates is there, and Aaron Weber and Nate Bargatze and Dusty Slay. I'm not even at the episodes yet with Dusty Slay, but man, I can't wait to see those guys in person. It's just because it's such a fun experience in person, right?
Yep.
We saw Tom Green this year. I wasn't a fan before, but I liked him after the show. Did I tell you that? I was impressed. I was impressed by his stage show. Wasn't a fan leading up to that. I went because Josh liked him. But there was a little line in the Christmas special. Nate Bargatze came up on the screen, and underneath the lower third said, "Your wife's favorite comedian," and I absolutely roared. He's so funny, and he's not. Yeah. I just love him so much. He's just so funny, and it sparks something in me that it inspires me to just be vulnerable. And create. Yeah, he just keeps making stuff, and he just keeps helping other people along the way, and I just love that. Has there been anyone better? I mean, I don't think so. I think he's amazing and the best, but, I know all right, that's enough. That's my Nate rant, but I am loving the podcast. They are so nice to just relax and have on in the background or just actually watch, and the guys are so funny, and it's just been the highlight of my year to discover that. And I'm just so glad the universe aligned in that way that it started coming up in my feed so much. And I don't even know how long I've been watching Nate.
Yeah.
We've watched all the specials.
There's another one coming out tomorrow.
I couldn't pinpoint. Oh, I forgot about that. Christmas Eve. So if you're listening to this, it came out yesterday. You can check it out on Netflix. There is a brand new brand new special, a full hour of Nate Bargatze comedy. And it's called Your Friend, Nate Bargatze. I mean, come on. The guy's a gem. He's a national treasure. He really is.
Well, we're going to be spending all day tomorrow watching that, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm going to watch it again and again and again. It's going to be on repeat. Yeah. So most of the views on Netflix is going to be from our house, but I just can't wait. And someone wrote to me early this morning and was like, "Oh, did you know there's a Nate B special coming out?" Like, yeah. Yeah. Are you kidding me? But here's what I'm going to leave you with. first of all, Merry Christmas. And I hope you're surrounded by the people you love, or at least thoughts of people you love, and some peace. And the question, what if this is it? Can you make peace with it? What if what you have right now, what if this is it? And I think it puts a whole different spin on, is it as bad as you think? Is there something you can fix? And maybe some stuff, maybe it's time to put out the trash. No pressure. But sometimes taking out the trash makes more room for the good stuff.
That's right.
And that has been, I think, the recipe. I think I might post some recipes, by the way. See, I'm hyper now because we've been on the air. I could go for hours now, but nobody wants that. We should maybe record we should do our New Year's episode right after this one.
We'll just keep going.
I'll just go change
clothes and roll right into the next one.
I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen in the next week? But man, I posted on Facebook yesterday that it's big emotional whatever, sending hugs out to people and all that kind of stuff, and the response is so great. People are so wonderful, and I'm sorry for anybody that's scrolling Facebook. I'm going to be signing off social media.
That's a good idea,
because it's it's just too much this time of year. I've been comfort food, surrounding myself with people that I love, and doing things that are fun, like this podcast. And thank you so much to everybody that's reached out to tell us that you're listening. I love it. I love hearing it. I hope you do your own podcasts, write your own books, write your own songs, do the stuff that makes you happy, and I'll be there cheering you on.
And we'll be back again next
right
week for New Year's Day.
Yeah, so be safe, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, good for you. Tell me all about that.
Just have a good week.
I'm Vickie Morgan, and it has been a pleasure.
And I'm Josh Morgan. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
Bye.
We're back a little sooner than we expected. As soon as the cameras went off, Josh said, I got to work on that ending. So I don't want you to carry that around for the next week. So let's do a brand new ending. How do you want to sign off? In your ideal world, how does our podcast end? So we got the little riff from Loser Anthem playing. What do you want to say? Because you're awesome, and I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to feel good and proud of yourself, because this is an awesome podcast, and you do a great job producing it.
All right. Well, I'm Josh Morgan.
I'm Vickie Morgan.
Zippity zappity.
Oh my God! Let's try that again.
No, okay, hang on. I'm Josh Morgan.
And I'm Vickie Morgan.
We'll see you next week.
Nice.
That's
good job. Good. Yay! That was perfect.
Was that a practice? We got it. Okay. Well, I'm Josh Morgan.
I'm Vickie Morgan.
We'll see you next week.
Merry Christmas, honey.
Merry Christmas.